All right, insight number 3 is that motivation is not a prerequisite for action. So motivation is this idea that we need to feel like doing something before we do the thing. And you often hear people say, oh, I don't feel motivated enough to do X. But what Tim Pitchell says in the book, and which I totally agree with, and I have been preaching to whoever will listen for a very long time, is that you do not need to feel motivated in order to act. Back when I had a job, I didn't feel like going to work quite a lot of the time. It'd get to a Monday morning and I'd be like, oh, I really don't feel like going to work. But just because I don't feel like going to work doesn't mean I'm not going to work. Motivation is not a prerequisite for action. This, incidentally, is something that Jeff Hayden elaborates on in this very good book, The Motivation Myth, which I have a book club episode about linked up there or over there somewhere. And if you can really internalize this idea that you do not, in fact, need to be motivated in order to act, that one firmware update in your mind will completely and utterly change your life. Because there are so many instances in all of our lives where we allow that feeling, like I don't feel like it, stopping us from doing something that's genuinely going to help us build a life that we love. And one of the strategies I find particularly helpful for this is to really lean into identity. And that's something that Tim Pitchell agrees with the procrastination stuff as well. When you have the identity of someone who's a procrastinator, or when you have the identity of someone who doesn't get stuff done, it's way easier to allow this feeling of like, oh, I don't feel like doing it, from stopping us from actually doing the thing. Whereas if you adopt the identity of a professional,
this grade has done it.
You know, when I was working as a doctor, I am a doctor, therefore I go to work and do doctor stuff. It's like, it's not a choice. I don't have to feel like it to do the thing. I am a healthy person, therefore I go to the gym. I am a good husband, therefore I spend time with my wife and kids. You know, it's like the identity leads to the behavior. And so a good question to ask ourselves is, to what extent are we allowing an identity label to prevent us from doing the thing and to cause us to procrastinate? Like when I was first writing my book, when I was first writing this about 3 years ago, I really struggled with imposter syndrome because I did not have the identity of being a writer. Similarly, when I started my YouTube channel, I did not actually embrace the identity of being a YouTuber. Whereas now I fully embraced, well, somewhat embraced the identity of being a writer and also fully embraced the identity of being a YouTuber. And therefore, I do writing and I film videos, whether or not I feel like it, because I'm approaching it like a professional. So again, the question I would ask you is that if you're struggling with procrastination in a given area, what would change if you decided to approach it like a professional would, rather than like an amateur would? An amateur acts when they feel like it, a professional acts regardless of how they feel.